And let's see if the chat appears in stream today. Why is my camera so bright today? Didn't change anything. Camera settings, perhaps? I did adjust some stuff. Backlight. Okay. Maybe that's better. It's not as contrasty. I mean, exposure is auto, so. Let's leave it. Needs to be good enough. All right, let's get started. Supporters are on the right. Thank you very much. I appreciate all the subs and so on. Today we're going to continue on the editing tools. And this morning I added some UI animation for adding and removing points. But what we're missing, so this is done now, right? Next item is to move the points. Now, obviously we've had this before, so we just have to kind of go back and re-implement some of that stuff. Oh, and I wanted to try to join voice chat on Discord at the same time. All right, Simon wants lines on the outer edge. So let me see, if I join this, I'm currently muted. I don't know if this is going to work. I don't know if that's going to work. I think I'll have to try that with somebody to help me out. All right, so let's have a look. We're in the line component, and we had this code running before. So the tricky part now is to kind of make it interact correctly with all the other stuff we added. Excuse me. So the last thing I was doing this afternoon was, so this is number 2 here, right? So basically we have a hover point, but we're not actually, yeah, okay. We got to pull this out of this. So if we do something like, let's do maybe, let's do this up here, and then we'll do half. So props of point equals this. Can then get rid of that. And selected point would happen here. So because we're waiting for the long press on these, basically if I start moving the point, it should cancel the delete, I think, and then it just becomes a point movement. So we can output have point here. Oh, wait, I'm in the wrong branch. Ooh. Let's do a deploy though, while we're here. I just updated before and I did not change back. So be careful about this. Let's make sure we have a copy of this. Let's see who's gonna join today. I might stream a little later today since I'm all alone and I have nothing but to do. So might as well keep on working. All right, come on Google, come on Firebase, you can do it. Firebase displays are so slow. Come on. My own deploy script would have run 10 times by now. All right. Now we can switch branches. All right. And if I save it now, the only change should be what I just did. Sweet. All right. So if I select this, hover point -1. Because that's on mouse down, right? So if I go here, down, this thing moved. Something happens here. All right, let's actually log on those guys as well. So at least we know that what we're hitting. And so I made these functions to set up the animations. So they're kind of out of the way. They don't, I don't have to keep looking at them inside these event handlers. So if I press down here, so we get animate insert point. Okay, so that's the problem, because the animate delete point kicks in before we hit this, which is fine. So then input move happens. And if was dragged, now was dragged, I think simply refers to the mouse moving, not to the actual line getting dragged. So let's see, there's a lot of little timings and stuff involved. Okay. So drag move happens before and drag move is for the whole object. So we need to hijack that. So basically we need to check first if drag move is actually going to be relevant. And so the whole object dragging wants to kick in first, but we want to check if we have our hover point. Okay. Now the problem with this is that we still want to be able to drag on the hover point. Oh, we deleted the point. So because we have the hover point versus the select point. All right, so so we need a selected point concept, right? So if the mouse is coming down, so the hover point is, so we should be using hover point over here actually. Similar to the hover and select elements. Right. We have to be a bit careful because it easily gets so spammy that it's hard to see. So let's see what happened. We had a, okay. So handle input down, hover point 1. Handle input down, hover point -1. So we're actually going to use the hover point here to decide sweet. Okay. So then we have a time. Do we have a timeout on a selected point versus a deleted point? Probably not. So on up, this dot cell point equals -1. So here we're going to do if hover point, then this dot cell point equals hover point, right? So if we have a hover point, we want to animate on the hover point, and that's basically all of this. And we don't need to do any of these things here because they're already taken care of in the mouse move stuff. Okay. But this needs to be interceptable by us up here. So cell point, we'll put that here. So I go down here, click, RC is not defined. Animate insert point. We shouldn't have hit animate insert point here. It's very tricky to log stuff in a mouse move handler. It's so annoying. So what happened? Down, handle mouse down, hover point is -1. So animate delete point here hasn't kicked in yet because this hasn't happened yet. So we probably want to call a function that takes care of this stuff first. So let's see, p.update point state. I don't think we need an event here. So update point state. It's just going to be super generic. And here we grab the mouse position and do all those things. So update point state, we get the path from the props. We normalize the mouse position. And we calculate the mouse point from these things. And then we do all of this stuff. Basically. Right. So if there's a hover point, if there's a hover point and the next point is not equals to the hover point, then we unhover the previous hover point. Right. So now we've unhovered, then this update point handle next point, then we're hovering next point, and we're setting up this .hover point to be next point. All right, so this takes care of hover point logic. And we can basically do this when the mouse comes down. The first thing we do is, do we do drag start first? I'm not sure if we want to do drag start first, to be honest. Because we might not need to drag, right? So drag start sets up. Okay, it's okay, because it basically just does a hit test. So we kind of need it to make sure... no, we don't actually need it. But it's fine. It doesn't interfere with anything. So then we'll do update point state. But let's look at it first from the input move position point of view, right? Because it happens first. So we're calling this .drag move. We're calling this .update point state. And now hover point, selected point, all of this stuff should be set up correctly. So we won't need any of this for now. And we can output this. We can do the same thing with drag start over here. In handle input down. And this is in handle input move. So, whoop. Okay, it doesn't like that. Cannot see hover point before initialization. Oh, I think it's this guy. There we go. Or it happens elsewhere. 1, 2, 6, 4. Oh, no, same thing. Same thing, different function. Here we go. Yay. So. So what do we got? We enter the tool, attach the element, we handle input down, we handle update point state, and afterwards we have our hover point and selection point is undefined. So we probably want to initialize those. Like that. Or maybe even like that. Right. So what happened? Input down, we got a thing. All right. And these were all up to date. And then as we moved away, they got updated. Okay. So now let's see what happens if we click in the center of the line. Okay, so that so far so good. That seems to work out. So the move is definitely, hover move is definitely what happens first. And this updates hover points just by calling this function. Fine. Now here, we basically handle this bit here. So if we have a hover point, i.e. it's not -1, we're setting the selection point to the hover point, and we return with an animation with the delete animation, right? So I can press this and it does that. I can press this and nothing happens. I press this and it does that. Okay. Now, at that point, if we start moving, what happens, right? So I go here, I press down and I start moving. So we hit animate delete point and then input move hover select. Okay. So if cell point is not equal to -1, console.warn drag point. Cell point. And then we want to abort our animate delete point, right? And instead of doing abort, instead of doing this here, we're going to create a progressor once here, like this. And then instead of creating a progressor here, I think the progressor, oh man, I'm the best at naming things. The progressor, yes. The progressor will have, I think I added a function that I can just pass arguments in on start, and it should work the same way as if you've passed them in here. And maybe we move the handlers, maybe we keep the API at the top and then move all the ancillary stuff down to the bottom, the private stuff like this. So if we pass in args and start, if this is running, we're aborting ourselves, fine. If we have arguments, we are executing set args, which is the same that happens up here. These are pre-initialized here. I'm wondering if the initialization should actually be done in set args. Yes, I guess so. Delay ID, interval ID, start time. Maybe this should actually be reset. So if we call this reset, we can actually make it part of the external API. And all that reset does is it wipes out the current state and sets up a new state. Then here we can call reset on startup. Right? It does all of these things. And if this dot running, this dot abort. So reset also runs abort. Other than that, it just sets all these to undefined. I think we can make this into one line. So these are the 3 IDs. Except for start time, that's fine. So then we're doing a... here we're doing a reset. Now, if we don't pass arcs in, if we pass blank arcs in here, I think we can always do a start, a reset on start now. Just that if we don't pass arcs in, arcs.delay ms. If we do this, it won't overwrite a value that's already set. Right. And then we can just unconditionally pass arcs through here. And if arcs is undefined, in fact, we don't even need to call this. And then the only thing that start actually does is it sets running to true. Hey, Nina. Yeah, thanks. It's starting to take shape. I mean, you know, circle. It's just something I could do quickly without actually doing any art. I hope to maybe in the future improve that, some iconography or something. But, you know, I'm a programmer, not an artist. Okay, so now instead of creating a new progressor, we should be able to just do .start here. And I think that will make more sense then. Find new progressor. Okay, so there's only one progressor. And if I click on this, okay, if I click on this and move, so then we get drag point happening. So if I go here and then start dragging, okay, it'll still come to here, but now the point deletion gets aborted. Okay. And we're hitting drag point, at which point we don't want to execute drag move. So drag move needs to happen afterwards. Return. If I do this, right, it should never get to dragging the whole thing. But if I do it from here, it works fine. Okay. Now this is not quite entirely true because we want to be able to drag the whole. No, we cannot have both, right? If you're dragging from a point, you got to be dragging the point. This might only ever be a problem if somebody wants to draw a tiny square and then everything is on a point, like the whole line would be covered by the point hotspots. So that, I mean, then they have to fiddle. They have to move one point out, make the line longer so they can grab the whole thing. So if somebody wants to make like a tiny little square in the corner, it'll be harder to let them drag the whole thing. All right. All right. And then to actually drag the point, what do we want to do? We want to I guess we just update the properties on waypoints. So we can do something like this, right? We can do get draw RC. Man, we have so many of these. I should just have a global function here. To draw RC, normal RSSC. And I should just have a get input RC. So that'll be app or const input pause equals framework.app. One sec. And basically this stuff here. Something like that stuff. So input pause. This bit. So input pause is on app. So pause, let's call it XY. Or even XY. Then we can do const rc equals XY. And that's it, right? That's it. Very, very simple function. And we were in here. So let rc equals get input rc. rc. And now we can do to draw rc. Next pause. And then we can get rid of all that extra stuff that does that other stuff. Boom, blows up. All right, app is not defined. Yes, I know why. Const app. All right. Okay. So now we have an RC. We have the next draw position rounded to our grid. Okay. And now really all we need to do is move the point to that position. So, and drag point is this one. So we need props. And then we'll do path equals props dot waypoints. And we'll pull it out. Or maybe we'll do it out down here. And then path cell point would be this. And then we can output the path. And the one point that we're moving in the path should change, right? Between here and here. Let's do this. And we can probably now do this and this. And in fact, this updates now. How's this update? All right. Well, what we really need is the update props, whatever. But update props, this thing. And ta-da! Okay, and I can still grab this. I can still I can't delete, but I can insert. No, I can't insert right now. Okay. Okay. So right now, yeah, okay. So if we have a hover point, So, okay, this is one of the problems. So the smallest movements instantly kills it, right? So we probably only want to kill it if we actually have a movement here. So basically what we're going to do is we'll stop here. Is there a way to not create this area here? Seems wasteful. Probably not the most wasteful thing I'm doing though. If I put this in here, we can update it, sure. Now this should show us when these are different or when they're the same. All right. So next pause is this. Let ref pause equals that. All right. And now we can do a little something something. If and we need some comparison stuff. Because I have all this stuff on the RC class, but it doesn't work on arrays. All right. Well, if cell point 0 is not or equals next plus 0, and so this is if they're the same, then we invert it, right? And then we can just say if not this stuff, then remove it, and only then do we abort this whole thing, which means as long as we're moving less than that fractional value, it will proceed with the point deletion, right? But if we move it, it just moves. It deletes, so it starts deleting, but if I move it just then, that means we can move the whole thing. Okay. So that means we can delete, right? Okay, but we cannot insert because I took the code out. So this goes in here. So this is if we don't have a hover point, RC not defined. And this would be get input RC, right? Is it just me or does the end of that line move a little? I have a feeling that it's on a fractional value. Anyway, that works really well. Boom. Can grab the whole thing. Oh, what happened there? Oh. So inserting the point also needs to be cancelled if we're dragging the whole thing, which we find out over here. Log. I think the vast was dragged. Yeah, the reason the end moves right now is because I'm rounding all the positions to my little grid here. And this line obviously isn't positioned like that. So I need to change that it only rounds what gets input by the user, not the existing points. So it's a little more complicated, but I can fix that, no problem. Was dragged. So this dot was dragged. What do you mean? Can you also delete the points in the middle of the curve? Yeah, just any point. So if I go here and then drag, so was dragged is true. So the moment was dragged is true, we want to abort as well. So if this dot was dragged, this processor abort. And now we can always call it because we don't actually need to, we know it always exists. So on up, we just do this. So if I click here and I start dragging, the insertion gets removed. Okay, and if I want to delete this one, it just does that. Let's try it on a, should we have one with crazy lines here somewhere? So if I take something like this and then I can select this, I can insert a point. And then I say, okay, I want to move this one over. Oh. So that's the other thing. Once the point is inserted, I have to actually, not exactly a rounding error. It's more like I'm rounding it, but where the data came from, it wasn't rounded. So I don't actually want to round it. I want to have subgrid resolution. I want to maintain that, but I want to snap. It's like a snap to grid type thing, right? It's snapping all the points, even points that already existed. So now, after a point was created, we want to make that point both the hover point and the selection point, right? So first of all, animate insert point. This dot update point. Animate insert point on finish. Update point handle. Animate delete update point state. Let me just do this over here. Now, what does animate point state do? Get input RC. We can do this now. Don't need to do any of this stuff. Don't need to do this crap. Do we even use app anymore? Nope. Props. Path equals props with waypoint. All right. The drag point becomes a point on the line. The drag point. No, the newly, so there's three things you can do, right? Four things. You can grab the line and move it. You can grab a point and move it. You can press and hold a point in the middle of the line and create a new point. And you can press and hold on an existing point to delete the point. So that's the four actions right now. But if you press to create a point, this point is now not the selected point. Like I haven't released the mouse cursor yet. If I start moving now, I move the whole line, right? So that's something I need to change. So after a point is created, it now must become the selected point. So you don't get weird behavior that just doesn't make sense to a human, you know? So I'm just thinking, animate insert point. This eventually calls update insert point at. So insert point at. Insert point at. If we now update, so update point state should update the hover and selection point. So after insert point at, we want to do this dot up. Actually, after this update props, we want to update this dot point state. So after waypoints get updated, we'll do this, and that should give us a new cohesive. Now the problem is it slides that state in under the bonnet. So for example, since mouse down doesn't trigger, okay, this doesn't work yet, but since mouse down doesn't trigger, it won't immediately try to delete the point because we wouldn't want that either. Yeah, I mean, I want it to be mobile capable as much as possible. So after the point gets created, we're updating the point state. So we've done update props. We've done update point state. So we have an insert point at that happened. After animate insert point, right. And let's swap these two, since they're swapped in their respective actual executions. Oops. So animate delete goes under animate insert. So what happens after? So we've updated the point state, so it knows what the selected and hover points is. This though didn't get fired, but that's okay. So let's see, after this, we want to now know what these are. So basically, after I've inserted a point on move, what's the information that the move function has? So we've inserted a point. Now if I move, right? The first, so animate insert point, handle input move. So hover point is 1, selected point is -1. So selected point does not get updated correctly. So we kind of want to do that manually. Insert point at, animate insert point, animate insert point, insert point at. Animate insert point. This should become our selected point, actually. Oh, hey, no kill Nina. Oh. Oh, hey. Hey, you're on Twitch. Ah, by the way, I'm supposed to have an on-screen chat happening here, but I do not see it. So I'm guessing this is not working. One second, let me just embed in stream. Oh, don't go there. Nope, not seeing it. Ah, no, there it is. Oh my god, it's super tiny. Let me just change that. So if I make this 300 and this 600. Okay, and then enlarge it. I had it right aligned when I did it myself. Oh, and it fades out after 30 seconds, which is maybe a little bit too quick. Chat opacity scale. Maybe scale it a little bit. And don't fade out quite so quickly. Maybe after 2 minutes. All right, here we go. Well, I just want to experiment because sometimes it might be nice to have this chat on the stream. I think I need to put something in the background though. So that doesn't update live, huh? Do I need to update it manually? I think I might have to update it manually over here. No. This is supposed to have an opaque, partially opaque background. I don't see a background now. Default compact message. Message background opacity, chat background opacity. Yeah, we'll see, we'll see. Okay. No, it's not white on white. Like, this is the I don't want to well, the preview shows it that it's not white on white, but it's kind of ignoring it. I mean, I guess I could just give it, my own background here. Like, I could probably apply filter. Well, probably it'd be easier to have a solid color thing. Anyway, not really a big deal. I'd like the chat to be right aligned though. That would be nice. So when I used to stream a couple of years ago, I created a little script that just hooked into the API of Twitch, and then I did my own chat interface, and then just had right aligned and stuff, and it looked really nice. But I had a different frame. I didn't use full screen. I had slightly less than full screen, so I had some space for the chat on the side. I'm also trying to be in a chat in Discord at the same time, because I'd love to have somebody on voice chat. For example, have ranks over and then say, hey, as a setter, how do you want this stuff to work, you know? I think that would be really awesome. All right, so here we're inserting the point. So instead of using some local variable insert point, we can actually use if. So here we're going to do, so selected point should be -1. So if So first of all, don't need to do this anymore. Then we don't need that anymore. So if this dot cell point equals -1, then this dot cell point equals yada yada yada, and we probably want to do let cell point equals this. So if cell point equals -1, then this equals cell point equals that. And cell point goes in here, here, and here. And I think this should be here. Yeah, just Discord. I'm not sure how to configure the microphone and everything, so it goes to 2 sources. I'm not sure if I need like an extra tool to kind of split the audio channel or something. All right, so do this and now move. Ooh, okay, so that works. And then it didn't work. Okay, why the hell did it work one time and then not the other time? Okay, here it worked again. I think probably what happened is I did this and I moved. Okay, this is a little hard to follow what's happening. So animate insert point. Eventually we might hit a board here. Log on a board. So on a board, this delete point. Now this delete point does this, and then after that, update point state should hit, right? And then next point, and then after here, we want to know have point slash cell point. We want to know what these are. Oh. So I think what happens is I'm doing a movement here. It's still too spammy. So animate insert point on a board. Animate insert point on a board. That happened here. Update point state was the next thing here. So cell point is -1 on a board, but we've run delete point. All right, update point state we need to despamify, and we want to make this orange. Let's try this again. Okay, so the problem is we moved and we had a leftover itty bitty here. So update point state was direct false, animate insert point. Animate insert point on a board, delete point. Okay, why is cell point -1 here? So update point handle cell point, animate insert point on tick. So, what is going on here? So cell point here should never be -1. One problem here is that I'm passing RC in, which means this was designed to be used to create a point anywhere on the line, while cell point is designed to be used. Well, it's okay. I'm okay to say the currently being created point is the selected point. So what happened here? Animate insert point on a board happened twice? Why would it happen twice? Animate insert point. It was only started once, so on abort should not be able to happen twice. So there's something wrong in the progressor logic, I think. Abort. I think abort shouldn't fire if it's not running. This should not be running. Let's mark it in start as well. All right, so start. Why get start called twice? Start from 214. Ah, yeah. Okay. It gets stalled. It gets called twice because there's a delay, and it calls itself again after the delay expired without the delay. So if we're gonna put this here as the start after the delay has expired. So then what happened? Progressor.abort running is true on abort. Animate insert point. Progressor abort running false. Progressor abort running false, 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 false. Okay, so it's just getting called a bunch. So let's not log those out either. So I hold, I release. Was start false. Let me see if I can get rid of those. 1, 2, 3, 5, right? Yeah. And what was the other one? 1, 1, 5, 3. 1, 1, 5, 3. Let's get rid of that as well. So, okay, that works as expected. Now I'm gonna hold it and then move it before it finishes. So this should have happened. Okay, so we have animate insert point, then we have the abort, then the animate insert point on abort, and then we have another start from where? From animate insert point again. Why do I have a feeling? Let me make the duration much longer. Because animate insert point only happened once. So maybe this happened from the timer. Let me just do this and this. So progressor abort. Progressor start, abort. Abort running true. Wait, I don't see a... Oh, okay, yeah. So the abort happened here, but then the start happened after all from the interval, from the delay timeout. Clear, delay. All right, let's rename this to timeout. Just so we're 100% certain we're using the right functions. So delay ID becomes timeout ID. Delay ID becomes timeout ID. I don't think it's happening anywhere else. All right. So what should happen is we're clearing the timeout here. We're setting the timeout here. No, that's a different timeout. You know what? We could apply this here as well, in case we have an abort between here and the other thing. All right. Although I don't think that's what's happening. So start A, start B. No, this goes in here. Start A, start B. So timeout.d set timeout delay milliseconds. When the timeout is expired, we're setting the delay to 0. We're running it again. It hits this. Now delay is not greater than 0. We're hitting this. And we're starting it up. Okay. So we had start A, abort, animate insert point on abort, start B. So we're hitting abort on stop. We're hitting stop. We're hitting on abort and all that stuff. And we don't reset these somehow. This is so strange. Why? There's something fishing going on. I can't get my head around why. So we're hitting stop. Interval ID is undefined. Timeout ID is 281. Afterwards, they're set. Timeout ID is being set again here. From what? Start B? But we should have never hit start B if we're clearing the interval, the timeout. Both. Neither. Everything. Set timeout. Set timeout. Console.log set timeout ID, so we know which timeouts and IDs and whatnot we're getting. So here we have a set interval and the interval ID is this. We're going to indent them a bit further, and then here we have another timeout ID. Okay, 2, 3, move. So what happened? We had a set timeout, ID 79. We're stopping the timeout 79. Then start B hits. But it shouldn't, because we cleared the timeout. Does clear timeout not clear the timeout? The global clear timeout method cancels the timeout previously established by calling set timeout. It's worth noting that the pool of IDs used to interval are shared, which means you can technically use clear timeout and clear interval interchangeably. However, for clarity, you should avoid doing so. Okay. So when we're hitting start, I'm just going to output these IDs. Might as well do this. Nope. Stop. Stop. What the heck is happening? All right. Oop. I have to make the sound effects. Eventually I have to put, I gotta put sound effects in it. I keep making them myself. So what happens? Stop went from 153 to undefined. Start A. Start A. We're setting timeout 153. Which is hit. So this expires. We got past the delay, right? But then we're hitting stop. But start B still fires. But why does start B fire? I saw the animation start. Which means abort shouldn't have fired yet. Wait a second. Am I getting this wrong? So 1, 2, boop. So I didn't move it until here. So why did on abort fire? Why did on abort fire? 246. Which was called from reset, which was called from start. First of all, running true should only be happening in here, because here it should already be set up. Secondly, this should never happen. 209 in start. Reset arcs should only be happening if we're not currently running. So if not this dot running, this dot art reset art. No, I'm an idiot. We don't want to abort ourselves here. And reset is getting called twice. The problem is the delay milliseconds. So we want to set up the arguments, but we don't actually want to do this aborting here. We probably just, we don't want to call start again. We just want to put that in here. I see. Yeah, basically I need to put this into a little local function here. So we're just going to do const start ticking. And it's all of this. Start ticking. And then here we'll do start. We'll never have an else. If this dot delay, instead of this, we'll just call start ticking. And if we don't have a delay, we start ticking here, but we don't call this thing twice. So we don't recurse on our start function, which was a stupid design. All right, I think that's what got things confused. So what happened now? Yeah, now we only get one abort. So we hit start ticking, and then we abort it. And I think that'll reduce some confusion. Don't know if it'll make the code any shorter since I've put in so much gibberish in here. We don't actually need to do this anymore either, because now we just have a different, we have an internal function we can call. We're just either start ticking immediately, or we start ticking after a timeout. And I'm thinking, because I'm seeing this, would you expect on start to happen synchronously? Probably not, because then what I can do now is we always do this. then this delay is just here, even for the 0 tick. And then, so the interval always starts 1 tick later. And we'll do a handle tick here. And then the time is set here. So if you have a delay, that still works correctly. Timeout ID, set timeout, start ticking this delay. And that's it, I think. Then it's greatly simplified. Make sure that still works. Boop. And delete and abort. All right. Now we can go back to actually figuring out what was the problem. Because this probably wasn't the problem. It's like a mosaic, my windows here. So the actual problem is down here somewhere. So we're aborting. We're holding the button down. Now we started moving. So we're aborting. But our cell point here isn't set up correctly. Wait a second. No, first of all, this abort isn't clearing out this hover point correctly. Okay. So on abort, delete point, and delete point doesn't seem to do its job correctly. So this should only have 2 points in it. It does. Okay. So update props. Why you not do your job properly? If point handles. So. It props add handle and remove handle. So then we move it. We got an add handle here. When we start the animation, animate insert point, handle point move, on abort, delete point, next point, update, props. And why did we get an add handle after the remove handle? All right, that's not right. So there's something kind of looping in on itself. Oh, what? So we're adding the handle on abort. Now we've removed the point. We're updating this. We're getting another add handle after the remove handle, even though adding happens before. So this must be a separate call to update props. So we have update props 991, delete point 1172, and then handle input move 12224. 1224. Handle input move. Half point select point on abort. If select point is not equal to -1. So somehow remove. Wait. 1224. Let me see. Obviously at this point, the selection point is set because we haven't aborted yet. So here we are aborting. And this is the abort, I think, that triggers this remove handle, the one that we care about. 12220, yes. So after this, 1 second. Handle input move, drag point. Yeah. So we've aborted. Oh. But the path isn't getting updated here. Wait a second. My brain. If... Okay, so we're in the process of creating the point. And that's the problem, is because I'm inserting the point before the point is inserted. I first insert it so I have the handle and can animate it. And then if it is aborted, I want to remove the point. So what happens here is we're moving our cursor, but it thinks we already have a point. So it wants to move the point. But it actually aborts the creation of the point at this stage. And then here we should review what cell point is like. And we might have to go back to the source to get the actual information. So we could I don't like it. I wish I could not create the point first, but then I have to create a whole mechanism of having a temporary handle for a point that doesn't exist. And I don't want to do that either. Because here cell point is -1, right? So here we could say if cell point equals -1, is not equal -1. So we could check again and do this, and then only do the return here. Otherwise, we just continue. Nope. If cell point is -1, so on a board, which is this one, then we get handle input move, this line, -1, -1. Then we get an update. We got a remove handle here before this line. So I'm guessing this remove is from the abort. Then we get an add handle, which was triggered by 1226. If cell point is not equal to if this dot cell point. So I think we need to update cell point here. Cell point of point was this. I don't think that works. Yeah. Nope. What am I doing? So something like this. Same for the hover points. And then all this information, the path won't be correct. So maybe we don't actually need to do this. 1 sec. Let's just do this, because if they've changed, we'd have to update all the other stuff as well. So, oops. Yeah, now the point is gone. And if I let it come into existence, which currently takes 1.6 seconds. Whoa. Wait, what? Ooh, the smallest movement. Why is the smallest movement screwing me here? Handle input move. 1, 1. Cell point next pause. Cell point. I don't know how that got mixed up, but that was completely broken. I was comparing the error index with the actual positions. Branks did a little survey for me on his channel, on his stream. wonder if it would bother him if I restreamed his stream. Ooh, but he's in. No, wait, that's not Pempa. That's LGM. That's fine. Yeah. What? What the fuck is it doing? Do you see that? That's hilarious. Oh my god. It's completely out of sync. Because it's rounding each point individually. Oh my god, that shouldn't be... What? Oh my god, I need to... I can't have that. Alright, so what was I just fixing here? Oh yeah, so if I create a point and move a little bit, okay, if I create the point and then start moving, it does this little jiggle dance. That's hilarious. Okay, that's really broken though. So what do we get? We got a warn and we got two warns. Okay, so we have a selected point. If the positions are different, because we don't necessarily return. Oh, because it switches between dragging and not dragging. Oh god. All right. If selection point here, but if we have a selection point and the positions are the same, this is annoying, right? Because basically, if we have a selection point and the positions are the same, I have a bit of a conflicting behavior here right now. Damn. So, in principle, it's fine. In principle, if the selection point is set, we don't want to move the line. That's how it works for the overall objects, right? In that case, if the movement is less than one grid snap, then we can just exit out, do nothing, and we wait until our movement is at least one grid snap, and then we do the movement. The problem is in this case is I want a movement to cancel the creation of the point. So we're back to having a problem with using selection point as our a point reference here. So kind of what we want to do then is not really use a selection point here. So let new point, then if not new point equals yada yada yada. But now we obviously have the problem once more that we have to create to update the selection. Yeah, it's because I'm doing the wrong thing with the wrong thing, right? So now obviously we can't use cell point here. So I should be able to do this and then move, and that should turn into a movement for the line. That's kind of what I wanted. Now let's make it a little shorter again because I'm tired of waiting. So now if I create a point, it doesn't update selected point, so it'll move the whole line. So basically what we want to do is the moment we finish, we also want to update the selected point here. I believe this.cell point equals new point. And we actually don't need to update the point handle, right? We could literally, we could call update props. In fact, we kind of do have to update props. No, we don't, because it's already been updated when we inserted the point. I'm kind of doing things backwards. Okay. So selected point here. Cell point. So this isn't working. We need to do this dot props dot waypoints dot index of new point. We need the index of this point. Okay, so now I can create the point and that, nope. All right, well. New point created. Let IDX. So we got the index, here we go. So, and this is just IDX. Creating the new point. Boom. IDX is -1, so that's a problem. So shouldn't new point oh, new point is the index. Never mind then. Okay, so don't do that. Just set this straight to new point. So now index should be 1. I mean, selection cell point should be 1. And now if I move, insert point, yada, 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 move. So selection point is not equals to 1. So then we get until input move. I think we still have the problem that, yeah. One sec, sorry. If we have a movement now, yeah, so now this will never hit until the point exists because we don't have a selection point. So I can always abort the creation by moving the thing. We never get into this mess in here, right? And now I can simply say, if we're selecting the point, but we haven't got any movement, i.e. they're all the same, just return, because we don't want to drag, we don't want to do anything. Now, if we have a movement on the point, we want to run progressor abort because this would abort a delete. We don't use this to abort a creation. The creation gets aborted down here. And that should be that should work, right? So create the point, we have a new selected point, delete the point, can move the thing, we can grab it, move the thing, can move the point. All right, I think that's the behavior we want. Now let's clean this up and give it a little bit of a once over because I've created a bit of a mess here. This should now no longer be a problem. This abort is really to abort a deletion of the point, right? So basically when we're moving, we want to abort the deletion. Okay. If we have a selection, we want to abort immediately. If we have a selected point, the moment we're moving, we're aborting. Or do we not want to do that? No, I don't think we want to do that. We do want to do it because we're already having this check about the minimum movement, right? So we don't need to abort here. Or vice versa, we don't need to abort down here, right? This whole minimum movement check should be global, right? Because that's kind of how I did it in the main app. So this kicks in to avoid. So if I click here, it would trigger a deletion. But if I click here and then move, it aborts the deletion, which is fine. And this is to abort a point creation. Does it do a little flip-flop where the line kind of moves for a second and kind of bends a little? I think it might. Let's do it on a bigger screen. Man, for a split second, I feel like the line is bent. It's hard to tell. but it's fine. That really doesn't matter. That's hilarious, though. Got the little bird flapping going on. Hey, Miko Kisai, are you in the chat? Or are you Nina? Oh, no, okay, he's referring to the full line editing, I believe. I'm just wondering if... I think that's fine, yeah. So this is fine. This now no longer occurs because we're not reusing the selection thing. And at this point, we do want to return. We don't want to trigger the dragging. So that now means all of this code is superfluous, finally. Yeah, I think we can finally replace all of that. And I don't think I need these notes anymore. So if we have a hover point, we select and delete and start deletion, and then we'll do else animate insert point. And I think I want to reverse these. So if hover point equals -1, so we have no hover point, then we do this. Else we set the selection point to the hover point and animate the deletion. And that's with these two. Cell point is actually not used. Update point state. Update point state on mouse down. Do we want to update point state on mouse down? Update point state does what exactly? Update point state. So that's dealing with the hover effect. So because the reason I put that here is because if it's not selected, it doesn't receive movement events. Because normally you would you would update hover state on movement. But if I press down now and don't move, I want this point. So if I go here and press down, the point is immediately in hover state, and that's what this does. Okay. And that's why we have to do this assignment afterwards. So we don't need any of this now. We don't need any of this. We don't need any of this. We don't need any of this stuff. We don't need any of this stuff. So all of this is done for. And then on up right now, we're aborting the progressor first, I think. And cell point gets set to -1. And do we want to do update point state? Probably. And then if drag stop, return. Because, you know, we might not have selected thing anymore, etc, etc. Wait, what am I deleting here? Okay, that was our placeholder stuff. Okay, so these things are supposed to be shorter, and they're getting shorter. That means the code is slowly getting itself organized. All right, update point state is our hover visual thing, and that's fine. Probably can do this a little bit like that, since it's only used in one place. Path is used in 2 places. Closest point on path returns the point itself. That's fine. We need the index. If hover point is not equal to -1, and next point is not equal to hover point, so this is the unhover and this is the hover, and this is the updating of the hover state of the point. Okay, don't need that. We need that. We need. Let's do a selection at all. Selection only happens on mouse presses. Okay. So that makes sense. Now, insert point at. So what does this do? It finds a point on the path, rounds it to a draw RC point. Yeah, okay, that's fine. deletion of point. So it pretty much, if hover point is index, hover point is set to negative. If selection point is index, selection point is set to negative 1. Okay. So it just kind of updates these things, updates props. Hover point probably doesn't need to be updated here now because update props hits update point state and update point state sorts out our hover point. I think the only reason I'm doing this here is because the points get removed. Except the points do not, they only get removed from the array, but the actual things don't get removed. So this we might actually want to do that in here. No, but in here we don't know actually. Because we're just getting a fresh array, we don't actually know which point got removed. Yeah. Okay, that's fine. I'm just thinking that's a lot of lines of code with just basic variable assignments. I'm wondering if one of these is not necessary. So yeah, so for example, I don't actually use this at all. And then new point only happens once, only gets used once, so we might want to get rid of that. Index gets used here. Index splice path, index off, next path, path. So I think we don't need to use path here. Yeah, so I think we can do this immediately like this. We just create we clone this array, and then we just use next path here because we're not actually manipulating the array here. Insert point at. Oh yeah, we are. We're doing it right here. That's fine. Don't need that. Okay. So that should let us still insert points wherever. Boom, and then move them. And we should be able to move them without having to click a second time. But we should also be able to do that with the deletion. So we should be able to point at the point, immediately delete it, right? Right. Creating additional points when the line only has one point, that we need to handle elsewhere. Because at that point, the line basically doesn't have a collision box, so we can't click on it. So that's actually something we want to maybe update in the to-do list. So drag, delete. Okay, that's what we'll do later. So lines, add arrowhead props, show market dots and subgrid, that's done. Make it lines. So what else do we want to do? Add points when line has no hit box, no 0 or 1 points, less than 2 points, right? Delete last point, or delete last point when line has no inbox. All right. The line is by far the most complex component we've made so far then. That's for sure. Okay, so we can get rid of this. We can get rid of all this logging in here. On finish, handle point, cell point, new point. Should we, if we're adding a point, we could manage select state if we knew that the mouse button is still down. So it's just slightly easier to do it here, and it's fine. If not, new point is insert point, the point handle new point, export this delete point, new point. So I can go back to one line at least here. Unfortunately, these are more than one line, but that's fine. Okay. This is basically just validation and such. Could we do something here as well? No, that's where we did it, right? This dot props. I think we can just do this, right? Then we can get rid of these props variables here, just make it slightly more elegant. All right, so that's all these things done. I still have a feeling I have way too much code in here. There must be ways of doing this much more concisely. That's just, there must be a better way of assigning these elements to the array. But I spent a lot of time thinking about that the other day and I couldn't figure it out. Okay, so that's our input move and our input down. So we're drag start, hover point, or drag stop. Okay, it's fairly clean now. Fairly clean, not perfectly clean, obviously, but like this seems also a little complex still. Like this, for example. Shouldn't I now? We have create point handle, update point handle. Let me move these higher up. So I have a feeling that this code now should be handled by one of these. So we should be able to do update point handle here now. Update point handle. And what do we pass in an index? So IDX. And then basically these properties. Something like this. Right? And then radius would be 0.2. Radius 0.2. What is this? This is when the lines get updated, right? And then this is just for the radius update, right? Okay, so that should also be replaced by this update call. Yeah, so this, I knew there was one more call of those that I didn't really need. So if I now do this, boom, that works fine. Move this here, delete this one, and then move this back up here. Okay. And animate delete point still logs. Animate delete point. That still logs out. Can replace all of this with this one function. It's a little bit smoother like this. And we can probably do this. Right. So we have the create here, the update here. Is there something in here we can transfer to here? Because we could get rid of these default values and then use the update point handle. Mostly because this has some weird defaults, which I'm not actually using anymore. So I think radius is double the cell size. What? I don't, oh, wait. Radius here, the radius is relative to the cell size. So if I pass in a 1, it'll be twice that. Ooh, okay. Yeah, that's a bit of a problem. No, wait. What am I saying? Radius is relative to the cell size. So if I put in a radius of 0.5, yeah, okay, so 0.2. Yeah, all right, makes sense. Hey, Mark. Yeah, I'm slowly cleaning up the line editing. So, you know, I have my little add point thing, and now you can just grab it and edit it. After you delete it, I haven't relieved the mouse button. I can now grab the thing. All the others should still work. I don't like the black lines yet. So it'll start deleting or adding immediately, but the moment I move it, you cancel it out. So it should work pretty well for touch controls, which is actually one of the things that I thought would be the hardest to do. To be fair, the biggest problem for touch controls might be the fine resolution. So on touch controls, you might want to switch down to a smaller grid, half cell steps only. Ultimately, I'd like to have a pan and zoom, kind of pinch to zoom type thing, but that'll be quite a bit of work as well. So if I refresh this now, I think even the animate delete point is no longer logging. Wait, so if I do this and then I press again, yeah, okay. So let's refresh, let's save this all into Git. Completed line editing. Because one thing I actually would like to add, do quickly is this. So I'd like to be able to... So I'd like to select the cage and press on it. And okay, that's dragging the cage now. But if I do this... So it... Yeah, so basically I'd like to be able to press down here. And I changed it so it now draws it on up. And I wonder why. Oh, okay. So I'd like to be able to do this and then start, because right now it'll just create one cell where I relieve it, where I release the mouse button. So what I really want to do is move or paint cells. So right now we have down and up and up. Sorry, my brain is a bit slow right now. So this is... why are we relating this to the manager? Get input cell. Get input cell. Why do we have to reference the manager for this? Couldn't we do this ourselves? Get input cell. Component manager. Yeah, that's silly. That is silly. That should be on the component. The manager doesn't need it, the components need it. So the same way we have get bounding box or whatever. And we probably can do helpers or something like that. And now we can get rid of all of this. So let RC equals get input RC, or more accurately RC, and then this. And to be honest, maybe it shouldn't be on these at all. It's more like for caching and that kind of thing. Yeah. It might make sense that these lower level things, especially if they're not referencing anything on the component or the manager or anything, should be up here for now. But it also makes sense that eventually they're gonna be, and this should probably be up here as well. Whatever. It probably also makes sense that eventually they should be class functions on the component, for example. But then I really don't like the syntax of that. You have to direct component dot do the thing, right? So input cell instead of manager, it's just get input cell now. Right. Now, do we need the manager for something else? Yes, we need it for the hover stuff. Okay, that's fair enough. So, drag move. If we're drag moving, I'm trying to think. So, currently, this tells us if we want to add a cell or not. So it shouldn't just be on handle input up, it should also be on drag move, which means we probably want to put this into a function. The only problem is, so this, well, problem. It's kind of like the selection. If I select stuff, now if I click, let's see, I've selected a bunch of stuff. If I press Control and I do this, I only add to the selection. If I press Control inside the selection, I only remove from the selection. So we want the same thing for the cages. So if I press here and start dragging, I should be erasing them. Unless I drag to move the cage. That's the only difference. So erasing, I can only do one at a time. Because otherwise, how do I drag the cage, right? Now I could create some sort of handle cursor or something. So only if you click on the handle do you actually move the cage, right? But I think for now, I'm gonna keep this. So that means dragging to add cells only applies to the adding, right? So it makes sense to have cell deletion on input up, but it makes sense to have cell adding on input down. And that means we're gonna have to do this in a couple of places, which means I wanna put in a separate function. And let's see. So we basically want to initiate a mode on the first, on input down, we want to initiate a mode. So p dot cell start, cell paint start, basically. So here we're going to figure out if we're on a cell or not, yada, yada, yada. So I think the problem here was we didn't want to delete in case dragging happens, right? So cell paint start, we don't necessarily want to delete immediately. So cell paint start happens on release. Okay, so we basically need to encapsulate, similar to what we did with the line. We need a hover cell and a select and a selected cell. Previous cell, that's what we're saving locally. Previous cell. If cell and previous selection equals this. Oh, basically we don't want to delete if we're selecting the thing for the first time. Okay, so there's a little bit of shenanigans are afoot here. All right, I'm starting to get my head around it. So let's just whoops. Let's minify this a little bit. Let's just do this for a second. Let's figure out what's going on. So cell and previous selection not equals this. So if we're pressing down, we don't care if we're currently selecting or not. We're simply checking if we have an input cell. Remove cell. Add cell. Wait a second. Hover is undefined. Hover component. Oh, okay, so we're using hover component to see if we are currently hovering. Okay, fair enough. So yeah, we don't care if this is cells ours or not. If we are the hover, if the manager, if input down happens and the manager has a hover component, the cell must be ours. In fact, we don't need to check the hover component. We don't need to check the hover component if we're clicking on our cells. Okay, that's the point. All right. All right, if we're clicking here and we don't, okay, that's how we know if it's our cell or not. All right. All right, so let in cage equals of equals this. Cell in cage equals cell and hub equals this. So that should tell us if the current cell is in the cage. And let's just return here for a sec. All right, I'm getting my head around it here. Sorry about that. It's probably not really complicated. I should get used to, like, if I scribbled on a piece of paper or something, I'd probably, whatever, right? I'd probably sort it out. Puzzle is undefined. Ugh. Did I write a bunch of code and not even check if it works? Puzzle is undefined. Framework.app.puzzle.grid. Alright, fair enough. So, boom. Cell in cage undefined. Boom. Cell in cage undefined. Okay. What? Whoops. Oh, come on. So, let's see. Yeah, having the chat on the on-screen chat kind of disappear after a while is probably not so great. I wonder if putting, I don't know. Let's see. Wait a second. If I remove this. So then the chat. Can you guys say something in chat? I want to test something because I'm experimenting with an overlay chat, but I think I'm trying to squeeze too much stuff into too small of a space. I'd have to like deliberately make a space for it. So hover equals this is true. Get input cell is undefined. Okay. Oh, wait a second. I'm an idiot. RC app XY to RC. XY to RC exit. That's the problem, because I thought I can just reuse input RC, but to draw RC input to exact RC. Yeah, so we actually gotta do this. App to RC. We don't need to normalize it here because that's already normalized. Except normalizing here because it turns it to an array. So we do want to normalize it. Okay. So we want to do this like that. I think that's the right thing. Yeah. So now cell in cage is true and cell in cage is false. And the cell selection really only just makes sure that we're clicking outside. We get that sort of thing. If I do this, cell in cage will be true because the selection of the cage happens ahead of time. Okay. So that tells us right now if on input down, we're clicking a cell in the cage. So if I click on the outside of the board and then drag in, I want it to be adding cells. If I click, yeah. So if cell in cage, this dot cell mode equals cell. Yeah, what do we call it? If cell in cage, we want to be in delete mode, right? The only difference is that delete mode only kicks in on up and move, unless there's a dragging. The problem is so it's the opposite, right? We want to know if we're in cell. Okay, so so this dot cell paint mode equals the reverse of this, like that. And that really doesn't kick in until we have movement. So if I do this, cell and paint mode false, and if I do this, cell paint mode true. So now in input move was dragged, right? Now that should be spammy. Was dragged true. Was dragged undefined. Was dragged false. Was dragged true. So the moment we have was dragged true, we don't want to paint cells anymore. In fact, if I click out here and go into its was dragged will never happen. Okay, cool. So we don't actually care about was dragged, we care only about cell paint mode. Cell paint mode true, cell paint mode false. So if this dot cell paint mode, we need input cell again. Because we can never be dragging when we're in paint mode, because paint mode only kicks in if we started dragging outside. And can we drag into the thing? Yes, but that's fine. So at this point, we want to add cell, right? And add cell should already take care that this cell... Nope, it doesn't take care. All right. All right. Cell paint mode. And then we want to say let cells cell paint mode is this, and cell, what does get input cell return? I think an actual cell, right? So we actually want to do cells.index of cell. And that should tell us if, so if I click this and now drag, and if we're out here, it's a -1 or maybe even undefined. All right, so if this is -1, if is -1, so the cell we're on, if cell, and so we're dragging on the cell, we're dragging off the board. The cell is not in our list of cells. Then we want to add a cell. And we probably want to run this.hover on the manager. like that. And we probably want to log that out. And we can now paint. Oops. But we cannot delete, and we cannot delete paint. And delete painting, I don't think I can implement now because how else would I drag the cage, right? I mean, we can probably do it through some sort of hotkey and stuff for the desktop users later on, you know, control click or whatever. But for mobile users, you'll just have to tap the cells. But for mobile, it's actually probably easier to tap quickly than it is for the desktop users. All right. So now here, we can probably simplify this. Because if we're in cell paint mode, we don't want to delete. So if not this.cell paint mode, we can probably just pull that out here. If not cell paint mode and cell and basically this, right? And cells, so we want to get cells as well. Index of cells is not -1. Although remove cell probably has a check. You know what? Add cell should really also have a check. And this, we should probably, yeah, no. But we probably want to do this, right? Let cells equals this. If cells.index of cell equals -1, cells.push cell. Okay. And for remove, if we're going to do the same thing, if cells, index of cells is not equal to 1, to -1, return. If cells.index of cells cell is not equal to is equal to -1, we want to return. So we cannot remove a cell that doesn't exist. And we can do this and this. Let's just be a little explicit. A few extra characters aren't going to kill us. And then we remove the cell. So that means now, and we don't need that. That means on up, if cell in paint mode and cell and yada yada yada, we can probably just blindly pass it in, right? Because if this is not an object in the area of cells, it just won't do anything. So all of these other checks, we can just skip them, right? If not cells, this dot remove cell, this. And then we don't actually need any of this stuff, I think. Now there might be some issues with updating hover states and so on. So if I click here, nope, click here, but I can do this. Now, if I do this, it will now cell paint mode equals true. Because I didn't move, right. So we should be able to do the opposite as well. If cell paint mode, do the thing, else do the other thing. So if we're not in cell paint mode, remove the cell and we set it to false. We do that when we are in cell paint mode. And then here we'll do add cell. And it'll filter out if it's not relevant. But what we haven't checked here is the previous selection thing, right? If previous selection equals this. Okay. And we basically want to do, if previous selection is not this, don't do any of these things. If pref cell is not equals this, return. So on the first click, we don't want to delete the cell. On the second we do. I want to be able to do this, but whoops. Nope. The one thing I don't like is that I can't just paint out of the cage like I can with a selection. So I have to start painting on the outside of the cage. And I have to be careful that I can only delete cells. Like I can select through it. For example, if the cage is here, you see it selects. So to add that cell, I have to kind of aim around that thing, which is a little inconvenient. But it's hard. And it might actually make it very difficult to draw a cage. For example, we don't have cages here. But to draw a cage on something like this. So then you'd have to kind of drag it in from the other side. It's a bit tricky. Or move the cage out of the way. Yeah, you'd need a way of locking the selection, basically. That's going to be a bit of a pain in the ass to fix for mobile. All right, I think this is a slightly saner way of doing the cages, and it allows us to paint the cage a little bit at least. So input down, paint mode gets set accordingly. Yeah, don't need that. We do need hover. We don't use this. We don't use manager for anything else. So this becomes a this.manager. Make it a little concise. I don't think we need the cells separately here. And this manually gets set there. Now, if we're removing the cell, I think previously we just see. Previously, did we do something with the hover state, manually updating it? Why is it not showing me all the stuff I deleted? There we go. Yeah, so we have a set hover there. So add cell. Manager set hover this. Remove cell that hover that. Let's find something with more cages. Here we go. So select, delete. So I can't drag the cage like this, but then I can do this. But then I have to do this one by one. It's not perfect for sure. But I think for now that is slightly better than it was before. At least you can, you know, if you wanna quickly say, okay, this cage needs to go all the way to the top, I can do this, right? But for example, right now, I won't be able to delete these cells because it changes selection. So I have to do this. Wow, I can't even do this. I was thinking I can move it up, but I can't move the cage out of the board. Ooh, what happened there? Oh. What's happening there? I think this might be our task manager going bonkers again. No. So when I hover, it screws with the dragging. Ah, that's terrible. Why is that the case? Let me see. So, start drag, drag move. Get input RC. So if I take this now, input RC, like that. Okay, grab it here, move it over. Okay. We did this. Before I had troubles with this. Ah, here we go. So it's claiming drag move, but drag move is not happening. Okay. I don't think any of these are used now. Drag offset. So drag move suddenly fails. Why is that? Does move component get called? This is so strange. Do this, right? Move component gets called, but the cage isn't getting moved. Why? What's going on? Move delta. What is going on? Can I not put cells into next cells plus grid get cells? Splice next cells. Next cell. Next cells index equals. What the heck? And it's only happening when I'm doing something weird. Ah, here we go. So what the heck's got... Undefined got... How did an undefined get in the middle of this list? That's the problem, I guess? How do we get an undefined in the middle of that array? What the heck? And now we got an undefined. Fuck. I think when I move it up, it's not moving it, but somehow it's losing the cells. All right. Probably because what? If refresh path invalid cell. Refresh path invalid cell. So go up. So we have now refresh path. We have an invalid cell. Oh, I know what's happening. Okay, so basically what's happening is I'm slightly moving the mouse up and it doesn't just, it says, oh, you're trying to move it up, so you have an invalid cell now, but it ignores the Y movement on the delta. So it's not actually clipping the X and Y properly. Are you planning to use this anywhere? The hover target. Sorry. Are you talking about what I'm doing right now? Hit test while dragging. Ah, so you mean when I'm grabbing something? Yeah, well, I'm not doing it while I'm dragging. I'm just doing it. So I'd have to add code to notice when we're dragging, right? But since the manager doesn't do the dragging, but the component does the dragging, it's a little bit difficult to get the information communicated down. Because right now, drag and drop is actually implemented per component, since the parent system doesn't actually understand how that stuff works. But yeah, I can basically disable hover checks and selection while dragging, but that's actually not the problem here. The problem here is that I'm not clipping the position for X, and like I'm not how do I explain? I want the cage as I'm moving it to bump up against the edges of the board rather than just stopping to do any movement, to do any updates. So cannot destructure property row of cell as it is undefined. For each move component, drag move. Drag move component 813 cells. So somehow the undefined comes through. Move delta. 814. So somehow I'm screwing my cells array, even though I shouldn't really be. It should just not move. That's what the freaking invalid check is for. Yeah, so the moment I clicked somewhere else, why? 740. Date path. 740. So drag move, add cell 793, 793. What's going on here? So after I dragged something here, then I click, it blows up. We're getting an add cell undefined. We got a cell -1 is not equals if cell's index of cell is not equal to -1. No, I have to check if cell is undefined or not. If cell is not equal to undefined, and so if I do this right and now click somewhere else, whoop, still dies. If cell is not equal to undefined, and it's clearly undefined, and or god damn it. All right, I guess I'm getting tired. What time is it? Oh my god, it's 9. Yeah. Girlfriend is off the island, so nobody here to keep me sane. Tell me to stop. So the problem here is that we're getting invalid cells because it's trying to push it underneath the cage, and I need to basically now decouple X and Y movement to make that work correctly. So let's see. The path, move component, move delta. It's not trivial though, and I don't want to build a full-on collision detection type thing. But basically what we really kind of should be doing is we should be creating an AABB bounding box, an AABB, an axis aligned bounding box on on the cell level and then compare that to the boundary. So we need the smallest and largest row column of the cells and then all right. Let us and then we basically want to clip that. We want to clip that to the boundaries of the board. And I was being lazy and I was saying, hey, you know, I'm just gonna move all the positions and then I'm gonna fetch the cells from the board. And if any of those cells aren't valid, I'm just not gonna move anything. But it means that the moment you're going off the board, nothing moves. The problem is now as I'm moving to the right, technically it's still down here and technically it's still getting invalid movements, right? While to a human, it seems like it should slide along, right? Let me think, what's the easiest, fastest way of doing this? Basically getting the min-max, right? And I think there is a min-max, min-RC, get min-max RC. Right, so this cages, it accepts cages. Can I cells can I hijack this? If I pass in an array that contains the cells, cages, no, a array that contains an object that contains the cells, and convert the cells to row column arrays. So boom, cells.map seems so ludicrous. And we'll map that to a RC array. Like that. Will that do the trick? Maybe. No. No, it will not. That, then that, and that. Okay, does that get us? It gets us a syntax error. So there's an extra column here. Oh. Okay. Query.replace is not a function. Query.replace. What? Get min-max RC 1555. 1555. Resolve RC cage.cells. Cage.cells. Oh, because they're in RC form. Okay, screw it. I'm just gonna clone this. Because there's so many little biddies there. So cells for each, and that's it. Min RC max RC, min RC max RC, min RC max RC. And it still blows up. Object is not iterable. Oh, because the cells are actual cells. So this is actually row call, not RC. I'm just going to relabel them here. Nope. That. So, here we go. So this gives us a minimum RC, maximum RC. So then we want to add the delta. And then, how do we clip it? Let me think. If we add the move delta here, so min max 3070. So if I move this up to the corner, right? Min max -1 Okay, so these are already in this form. So 0032, and then if I go down here, 88, right? So if we now add the move delta, plus move delta 0, whoops, and plus move delta 1, so that should give us the new minimum maximum RC. And the move delta here is calculated in a different like this. Basically what I'm doing is I'm calculating the bounding box of the new position of the cage, hoping that then I can compare it to whatchamacallem, to the boundaries of the board. So for example, here I have a minimum row of -2. So if I subtract that from our move delta, i.e. add 2 to the move delta, then our move delta now would be pushed back inside the thing. And I could probably, I mean, there's probably a formula I can just apply directly. But I can say, I can write it out, right? So if min RC 0, i.e. the row is less than 0, then we need to increase the move delta row. So this would be negative. We need to add the inverse of this, which means we can just subtract the negative value and that would add it to the move delta. And we can do the same thing with min RC1, move delta min RC1. And now with with max RC, it's the opposite. If max RC is greater than, and we don't actually know the maximum size of the board here, except because I've never actually implicitly written into the code anywhere that the board is a rectangle. So in theory, you could have a sparse large board with cells with spaces in between. In practice, that has never happened and likely never will. So we probably can do puzzle.grid, and I think puzzle.grid. And things like this make me happy that I'm building inside the engine right now, rather than building a separate thing with just a render in common. Rows, and rows here is on one larger, so is greater or equal, because even if it's a 9, then we have a problem. And we need to move it inwards by, so let's say if it's 10, let's say we need to, so if it's 8 equals 8 and rows is 9, and let's say this is 8, then we want the number to come out as 0. If this is 12, we want the number to come out as -3. So we basically, okay, let's do this. Let rows calls equals this. And if that's greater than or equal to rows, move delta minus equals move delta plus equals rows minus max RC0. And here we do the same thing with the columns. Equals max RC1. So now I want the new move delta and see how that works out in the end. So clear this. So moving up, if I move down, okay, that still doesn't work. So the new move delta here has been reduced by 1, and it's probably not enough. So on the top it's working, so on the bottom it's not working, probably because it's still too large by 1. So we're hitting 9. This needs to be 8. So here the move delta was not reduced. +1. No, -1. Because rows and columns here is 1 based rather than 0 based. So, and now that works. So now I can push it against the edges and it just works. And we don't get that weird freezing, which especially was a problem. Oh, why can't I? Add cell isn't working anymore. I broke it. This seems like a lot of code, though. It seems like an unnecessary a large amount of code. All right, let's figure out what's going on here. So add cell. All right, so let's see. Add cell. Then we have cells. No, cell and cells index off. So select, click. Add cell. Cell is not equals to undefined. Yeah, that shouldn't be the return. If cell is equal to undefined, or, god damn it, how many times did I get that wrong? All right, here we go. So now I can still easily move it back and forth. I can delete these. Yeah, but this will cause a selection of a different cage. So best I can do is this, and then do this, and maybe do this even, go down, delete these, and then add these back in. I mean, it's super fiddly. And it's not perfect. Probably will need some sort of hotkeys or some sort of long press and then kind of, I don't know. Now, let's see if we can prevent the hover effect. What I don't like is I have this big chunk of code in here just to calculate the minimum and maximum. It just seems so unnecessary. Also, I'm gonna change that because lately I've been using lowercase c in my variable names, so I'd rather have the code be consistent. That's a bad habit I have, or maybe it's a good habit. I slowly over time keep evolving my code conventions, and I keep changing them, and sometimes I change them back and forth. And in a weird way, it versions my code just by the conventions I'm using in the specific code, which is probably not a good idea. Don't do that at home, kids. All right, next cells isn't gonna happen until down there. Now, what was the problem? The problem is Oh yeah, the hovering. So let me think. The manager has no conception of anything getting dragged, but the component does. Let's see. Where's our manager? Yeah, why are these spaced out like that? A lot of these helpers need to go into a class so I can collapse this code more effectively. So, component manager, selection, handle input move. So this set hover is what happens when I'm dragging. But not input was this. Then we can say log. We can do this, right? And that should give us input component. Now, the input component is not necessarily yeah, okay, that's actually not what we want. We want cell, and then we want cell dot and was dragged. I'm not sure if that's actually good enough here. So we have drag start, drag move, drag start, and drag stop. How do we detect if we're dragging? With drag offset. And we can probably do a is dragging, return is dot drag offset equals undefined. So then we should be able to do cell dot is dragging. So we need selection first and then hover after. There you go. Reading is dragging. Probably because there's no selection, right? If so. So we probably want to do if cell and cell dot is dragging random characters return basically. Isn't that annoying? I think it's using hover to detect, to make the dragging work. If cell. So this one can no longer be hovered. Set hover get input component. If selected and cell is dragging and input component is not equal and input component equals and input component is not equals to the selected component, then we exit. Same one. Of course, because input component here changes, right? Because that will be the input component even if we're dragging this one. So Um, oh, I'm an idiot. We need this. So if cell and cell is dragging, if not selection or not selection dot is dragging. So in other words, if we don't have a selection, or we have a selection but the selection isn't dragging, then update the hover state. Now the other stuff, you still got to do that. Why we're updating hover here when we're never even using it is a mystery as well. So now I should be able to drag this and it shouldn't hover other things, and that should make some things slightly less messy, even though the hover, I don't think I'm actually using that. All right, 424, drag, move, okay. So grab, move around, no worries, grab, move around, no worries. Okay. Now other things. Move, no worries. Arrows, yeah, arrows are still borked. Okay. Yeah. All right. And line editing, boo. And delete, boom. 1, 2, 1, 2. I don't know. It's 700 milliseconds. It feels so much longer. Okay, that's still a problem. So we obviously need to put some attention into the inspector soon. And we have more spam to get rid of. 845. 845. Not likely. I'm not seeing any console log here. 790. Also. Okay. Find cell paint mode colon. Is this? Oh, wait, I didn't refresh. That's why. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, this delete feels not snappy because it waits till it does it on mouse up. I should do it with a short delay, like 100 milliseconds or something. Otherwise, it'll always feel a bit strange. But it's really not important, so I'm gonna put this here, and then I'm gonna do a kind of like cell delete should happen after short 100 millisecond delay before mouse up. All right. Draw delete caches, so that's done. Company type filter for components list. Add component, create new component, either currently selected or the inspector. Add properties, border color, background color. So the arrow system, I still have to review how I'm gonna do the selection of arrows. 2x700. Do you time it with console.time? I mean, I really don't see how I could have done an error there, but we can always do this. Console.time. Let me get a point. And then console time, and we can do the same thing for delete. Console. But yeah, good idea. But to be honest, I think it's just my brain. problem between chair and keyboard as usual. On finish. I'm pretty sure the time is fine. But yeah, maybe better safe than sorry. Boom. So it's 900. It's not exactly 700. It's 600 and a 300 millisecond delay. Man, it feels so much slower. 1/1000. Yeah, 1/1000. I guess sometimes a second is longer than you might imagine. It just is. Seconds aren't that short. So if we make this a slightly shorter delay before it starts, and then make this slightly shorter, so 600, 700, so it'll be 700, 700, 900. How would that feel? I think that's still enough time to change what you're doing. The only thing I don't like about it is, like, if I click here absentmindedly, what I'm thinking of what I want to do with it, I've just now erased it, right? And once I have undo, redo, not a big deal, but right now I don't have it, so I'd rather that not work that way. Yeah, but that feels much better. Feels much better. I guess a second just is a relatively long period of time when it comes to animations and interactions and things like that. All right, I think I'm gonna, well, it's 9:30, yeah. I gotta figure out what I'm gonna do for food. Gotta fend for myself like a helpless babe. All right. Anything else I want to fiddle with on the to-do list? Yeah, I think it's time we give. I hate that I haven't sorted out the. I haven't sorted out the arrows yet. That's a bit painful to me. Wait, don't I have? Yeah, I have underlay. Yeah, so I can edit these now as well. The underlays here. Why can't I? Oops. Why can't I select? Why can't I select this? Ah, okay, that was the older version of the software, I guess. Whoop. Line optimizations. Don't need those points. Ah, so this is one of those cases, like, I cannot select these cages now because of the underline. So that is something I have to figure out. I mean, something like this, like I want to handle this with I want cages to be able to have a background color. They'll be implemented, the data underneath the bonnet will be the same. But to have to kind of make little squares all over the place seems a little painful. Although I guess in FPuzzles you don't have to put squares all over the place, you literally just set background colors on cells. Huh. Ah, wait a second. Can I? Ah, I can select the cage as long as I hit it on the line. So there's a certain amount of hitting, or is this related to distance? That's actually a good question. How does it distinguish between multiple potential hover targets? So handle input down, get input component, get input component. So get input component. It finds the closest component by RC distance. And RC distance for cages is calculated according to... I'm speaking slowly because I don't know the answers. we didn't actually implement RC distance for cages. So it just does it relative to the bounding box. Huh. Which means... Oh, okay, that's really... Yeah, so in this area, this is a bit strange because wait a second. If I select something else, hover, hover, hover. What the heck? RC hit test. Elements for each RC bounding box hit test. So that's bounding box. But for cage components, I've overridden the RC hit test, go away, with this little function here, right? And this looks at the cells directly. Now, we're getting a true for either one here. But why? Like up here, for example, the distance to the center of the bounding box is smaller for this one. So what I could do for cages is that the distance is the distance to the closest cell center, maybe? So for example, this cage, where can I select it? Here? But nowhere else? Oh, wait. Is it because the distance is calculated as a weighted distance between all the elements? Oh dear God, I think it is. So is hit distance RC bounding box distance. So it's the average distance. So because there's multiple elements here, if I click on the number, the average distance is smaller than the distance to the center of the cell. Oh man, this is really crappy. It means you can select them, but it's kind of arbitrary if... So for example, on a larger cage, it'll be harder. So maybe for a cage, it makes sense it would be the distance to the boundary of the cell. So in other words, this path, yeah, so the idea would be, one little second. If I do this, and I do this, and this will be c.name, and then this dot prototype dot name, and it won't be prototype, it will be constructor, and self component, input component, add component, selection, update, yada yada yada, and minimize, close, reduce, hide. Okay, RC hit test. No, RC hit test, RC distance, here we go. RC distance. And then this is RC hit test. And then distance should be above hit test, okay. RC hit test. So we have a cage component here. And So to reduce the spamminess, we probably just have to hide these for now. Why is my microphone so far out? I have to keep looking over it. It's like my microphone. There's something different. There's something lately I'm struggling with getting my microphone in the right position. I don't know why. Also, I'm slipping down the chair, which is probably not helping. So we want the boundary of this cage. The problem is that boundary of this cage is calculated by a particular formula, and then it's getting injected into the SVG. Now, I don't want to extract it from the SVG. So what I might be able to do is go to the renderer, and look at get cage RC to path data. No. Get cell outline. Right. All right. And the cage style comes from stuff. Cage style. All right. Let's just output a few things here. I don't know if I have access to style here. Props style killer. So I kind of do. It would be best to have it take that into consideration if I could. So get cell outline. Ugh. Yeah. So get cell outline. Cells in what format? Get cell outline, and the cells have to be in what format? Please don't make it a string format that I have to parse. Please, please, pretty please. Cells. For each. Okay, so actual cells. All right, that I can do. Cells. Cells. Props. It should really be let here. This. Props. And then we have cage style. Props style. And then eventually we'll have edge points. And that should be a path that maybe we can use. Edge points is an array of these things. So if I go here, are they small numbers? Row column. Row column. So they're relative to RC, row column format, with the first element being a little extra. So we probably want to do map row call to row call. Okay, so that's occasion hit test RC test as a collection of outlines. Then you can also select, yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing right now. So I'm calculating the outline. So now this is an outline. And now I can use distance to path. I can treat this as a path, and I can do distance to path, I believe. There's so much math in here. I did not expect that. I thought I was going to run it fairly high level. But I kind of decided to turn it into a bit of a painting program. So then we can do closest point of path. Ugh, I should have paid more attention. Closest point of path, point, path, max distance. So point is RC. And we probably want to redo RC to be based on normalized RC coordinates. So point on path, RC, edge points, max dist, 0.3 maybe. That closest T equals this. And that. And here we go, RC PP dists. Yeah. So closest point undefined. Why? And why is there an undefined on the last thing here? The frick? Wait, let's do this. No, not this. We want this, this. We want this. And we want this. So now tell me why the last point comes out as undefined here. Ah, because it ends up with a Z here. Is it always going to be a Z? I believe it's always going to be a Z. Dot slice 1. Yeah. All right. Isn't slice -1? 0, -1, something like that. Not sure, but might be with, you can also, yeah. So, okay, here we go. Now, our closest point is still not calculating correctly. Closest position on path. Closest. Wait, closest position. Wait a second. No. Distance to line. Distance to path. This is what I want. I was wondering, minimum distance didn't make any sense. Dist. We have to make sure that we're in the same coordinate system here. Dist already been declared. Dist path. Come on. So that gives us a distance, and if I go here, that distance is around 0.5. It'll be around 0.5 here. It's almost 0, and then here it'll get larger. Okay, I think we can use that. It doesn't take into consideration the elements and such, but for a cage, that makes perfect sense, I think. The only issue here we have to consider is when we have different kinds of cages. And the distance to the underlay here, yeah. Okay, that makes it actually fairly easy to select both. And I think it might actually work even for selecting things like that. You see, as we're getting, the only thing is here, right, as we get to the edge of the cage, because the selection does not care about Z, it doesn't take Z into consideration. Let's have a look at this one. This is a busy one. So arrow, overlay, arrow, edge. This doesn't look right. Edge. Why does it here, when I'm exactly on top of the edge, why does it then go over to selecting the underlay instead? That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So here, distance to path is 0.67. That doesn't make any sense. That makes no sense at all. Maybe 6.44. I think it's missing the final segment. The Z is closing the path, but it basically sees it as if there's no line here. So we basically have to add the first point to the end of the list to create a closed path. And now, yes. And we can't even do this. Although, why does this work? These two distances must be basically identical. But it looks like we can still do some very fine controlled selection. Like I can easily select these X's or these arrows. So far so good. And I can immediately grab a corner without having first selected the item. I can move the cage. So for me, the litmus test is always think of an action and then do the action. Is the result what you expected? Without thinking about how to do it, just think about what you want to do. So I want to drag this point. Okay, that works. I want to take this V and put it somewhere else. Apparently there were two V's on top of each other, right? So that's obviously something where there's a problem in the data. Nothing I can do about. But also being able to edit more easily will make it easier to clean up the data and harder to have bad data. Okay, I cannot delete this. Why can I not delete this? I can delete this. I cannot delete this. Can't delete this. Can't delete this. Uh-oh. I think cage deletion. Oh, I'm still in paint mode. I'm in paint mode. It's not getting out of paint mode. All right, this works. I'm kind of happy about that. But we got stuck in paint mode. Shoot. How did we get stuck in paint mode? Stuck in paint mode. Why can I not select? I can delete some, but not others. Well, that's a problem. Yeah. I still haven't learned how to use this new... Oh my god, this is definitely not right. Well, looks like it's fixed itself. Okay. Monkey test. Press right click while dragging painting. That makes the menu come open. The problem was more specifically that I got myself in a state. Yeah, you see, I cannot delete this one. I cannot delete this one, or this one. I can create this one, but now I can't delete it. And you see how more get filled in as I drag it around? not component. Well, I'm looking at component. Whoa, that hurts. All right, the battery's out on my headphones. Yeah, I really gotta call it a day. How long have I been streaming? This feels like a long stream. This feels like a 3-hour plus stream. All right. Drag. Oh, so I'm pressing down. We're setting the cell paint mode. We're coming up. Let's output what the paint mode is at this point. Maybe we have an interference from drag stop here. Cell paint mode. Okay, so select this one, drag, cell paint mode true. This was on there. Cell paint mode false. So now cell paint mode is true. Why? Handle input down, get input cell, hover equals this. So it's probably because I messed around with the hover. Handle input down, get input cell. Because now I think it no longer hovers the selected cell. God damn it. So I have behavior that's depending on that hover to be correct. Where did I change that? Here. If cell, if not cell, and cell is dragging. This dot set hover. Isn't that the only thing we've changed? Oh, well, I've just also changed the distance thing. So it could be that I'm losing hover on the cage, which is very annoying. That's probably what's happening, because I've just changed how hover is getting calculated, right? So can we get rid of the hover dependency here? So all this really does, the problem is, the RC hit test. No, so the hover is really the RC hit test, right? So we kind of want to do RC hit test here. So we want to output hover. It sounds so weird without the ANC. We also want to output the result of this. And RC hit test needs an RC, right? So get input RC. There's probably a better way of organizing all of this. I didn't change any functionality right now, didn't I? Did I? Ah, here we go. So I'm pressing down and I get hover is undefined. Exactly. That's the thing. Right now, this cage is not being hovered because it's the X that's getting hovered. But RC hit test is true. So if I replace the hover with the RC hit test, let this hit equals if so cell paint mode is hover equals this and hover equals this. If not get input cell, if not, wait, if get input cell and hover is this, we have an input cell and we're currently on our thing, then we shouldn't be in paint mode, we should be in delete mode, right? And is hit. So this could be replaced with is hit. Yeah, I think that fixes it. Ooh. That's a problem if you have cages overlapping. I mean, that's something I want to consider then. Maybe cages just can never overlap. Oop. Uh-oh. Why can I not hover this cage anymore? Shoot. What happened to this cage now? I broke the cage somehow. That should not be possible, obviously. For obvious reasons. I basically have to do this, which is a very silly game of Tetris. Yeah, there needs to be a way of locking the selection easily, so I can manipulate one element without other elements interfering, basically. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of work still to be done to make it work smoothly and perfectly in all circumstances, besides just the surface stuff of, oh, you know, in theory you can do the thing. Shit, after short, yeah, okay, that's... we're gonna have to do how to select right component when stacked. How to delete cage cells when stacked, and should cages overlap? Yeah. I mean, if I don't let them overlap, for example, then it's not a problem, right? And if I basically give the cage an implicit backdrop, yeah, I mean, it could be like I don't know. Because I want to be able to select things here, you know? Maybe you have to like control select or long press or something. I mean, it's mostly the cages that have that problem because of the way the cages get edited. So it could be maybe different. Maybe selection works as it does now. But to add and delete cells on the cage, you have to kind of go into, you know, you have to select a little tool, add cells, boom, 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 right? Or delete cells, boom, 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 boom. And then it just does that. So it could be a sort of partial, component-specific, yeah. I mean, you kind of get around. And this is a fairly busy puzzle. Most puzzles aren't this busy. Can't believe this doesn't have any killer cages. But I like how we're moving in and out of the different modes. So I click on the line, I get my dotted grid. Clicking outside doesn't deselect just yet. I wonder if it should. I constantly find myself trying to click to deselect. Should always be able to select plus edit with the inspector, right? Yeah. But if I can avoid that interaction, because there will be a lot of things in here, and it would be a very shitty, crappy experience, to be honest. Probably what I'll do is I'll do a 2-tab design, where one tab would be the list of components, and the other tab would be the inspector, or like a kind of, what's the word, a accordion kind of style thing. So This, I don't, does this update? Oh, that doesn't currently update. Yeah, I have to overhaul the inspector. I don't think I can. Oh yeah, I can't edit those yet. I think this is the only one that's really hooked up at the moment. Whoa. So big. That's hilarious. I can drag the line from anywhere. How's that? Oh, because it uses the bounding box. Oh, that's kind of cool. All right. If I change this to number, if I say type equals number, I think I get, yeah, I get the little thingies, and I can, should I be able to use my scroll wheel? Oh, no. I can do this or this. No? Ah, I can use cursor keys, right. But why can't I use the scroll wheel? I guess that'd be nice to implement, actually, that I can just use the scroll wheel over thickness and it'll adjust that. I'm gonna put that under scroll wheel on, or yeah. Inspector. Scroll wheel on number input adjusts. I think that will work. All right, I think I'm gonna call it a day. Wow, it's already 10. Where does the time go? But I think we made some more progress. Specifically, we've completed the suite of line editing tools. What we haven't done yet, let me put that in there as well. Lines don't round or don't snap points that aren't actively edited. So I don't want to adjust the positions of the points just because I'm dragging the whole thing. Yeah, that's the only thing right now that's a little dodgy, is that if I don't know if there's a point, if I try to say, okay, I want to move the whole line, and I happen to click on a point. So for example, with these thermos, like there's a point here or here. If I click this, it actually edits the point when I might expect to move the whole thing, right? Oh, there's one probably for each thermos. Yeah, got the point again. Why can't I select this? It keeps selecting that. Huh. So there's an issue here. So issues. Line. I'm going to move that to issues. Line issues. Overlays. Multiple thermo bulbs aren't organized correctly. Whatever that means. All right. Well, I actually don't care about the up-down number buttons. I just want to have the scroll wheel thing. I mean, the CTC editor has, if I go to lines, it has, what does it have? It has these, which are, that's terrible. Ugh. Hover should show the line points. The problem with that is that right now the line points are managed by the line. So where do the line points come from, right? They are SVG DOM objects. Do I want to insert them suddenly by the component manager? Do I want to wake up the component temporarily for a hover effect? Maybe in a perfect world, yes. Is it worth restructuring the structure of everything? I don't think so. Because the component manager doesn't know anything about how the component works, right? And I don't want it to know about it. Otherwise, it won't be able to handle all the different kinds of components. I mean, we could expose the hover thing somehow to say, hey, instead of just applying a style, and in fact we can in a way because we're executing apply style, right? So we could listen into apply style, which somewhere we're doing already. Yeah, we're already doing it actually. Yeah, I guess we could do it here. The thing is, you know, we have that performance problem. Do we really want to do DOM modifications on a hover effect? Not really. If I can avoid it, I'd rather not. But maybe we'll put it in here somewhere. What do we call these? Juice. Show line points, point handles on hover. It's also like, how busy do you want everything to look as you're kind of, because yeah, it's useful if you're focusing on that line, but odds are you're not. Odds are you're just moving your mouse around, you're actually looking for something else. Also, hover, again, not really present on mobile. Well, the arrow components aren't really in there yet. Insert invisible points. Well, no, that's even worse. If we always insert them, we don't want to insert them. That's the whole point. All right, I really gotta sort out some dinner and find my bed. It's already 10. It takes me forever to settle my brain down. Usually by now I should be in a dimly lit room on a couch with a quiet something on YouTube. All right, let me try this chat thing again. Yeah, the chat hasn't really been working, has it? Well, anyway, thanks for hanging out. Appreciate it. We're making progress. Let me know how you guys feel about sort of long-term or medium-term plans. I've been thinking about doing some Patreon posts and talk about my goals for the editor, when it would get released, you know, what's the time frame for that. Features on SudokuPad, the issue with the storage and iOS, why it's kind of stalled, why I haven't done updates because of that. So I kind of want to do a bit of a write-up on that, especially since I just got an email from somebody who seems to have finally filled up his local storage, and he basically has 600 puzzles and doesn't want to delete them. And I have really terrible news for that person, because unfortunately all the puzzles will be deleted if he's on iOS and if I ever do an update. And that's why I've kind of been hesitating to do an update. So it's kind of a bit of a painful thing, because a lot of people are going to be very unhappy when they lose their data, and there's nothing I can do about it. There's no way. I thought even about building a separate app that people could download, put on iOS, and save their data from the outside. But as far as I know, there's no way of accessing that kind of data from one app to another on iOS. So it's pretty nasty. Hey, Pivot Jibe. Thanks for stopping by. Really appreciate it. 1 second. I didn't see your message earlier. Overlapping cages might have a number of issues, like how to render size if top left corners overlap or difficult presentation. Yeah, I mean, I personally don't worry too much about that stuff, since this is purely cosmetic. So if there are issues, it's up to the setter to basically clean it up. And the way I see it is, you know, there should be a little toggle and make it invisible. So if people want to build cages for other purposes in the future to mark out how rules work and so on. For example, I build your own cage puzzle. The cages might actually be in the puzzle, kind of like a solution would be, you know, just invisible for purposes of, you know, validation and so on. So I'd rather not have to prevent it, but obviously it's a problem of how it might get edited. I mean, this right now, obviously, it's not just going to say overlay component. Hopefully, this list will be more useful and might alleviate some of those issues. And it would only ever affect the most complex of puzzles. So the people setting those should kind of know what they're letting themselves into. So I'm trying to build something that beginners can use to immediately get into it intuitively, but then advanced people will know what to do about it. I'm just seeing these numbers. Shouldn't these be side by side? I don't actually know this puzzle very well. It doesn't have a description with it. All right, but it seems to always be like this, so maybe... I don't actually know where I got this from. It just seemed like a very busy puzzle, so I want to use it for testing. Yeah, thanks for the kind words. Yeah, I'm gonna start doing those kind of posts over on Patreon for the people who really want to know what's going on behind the scenes, and it's about time I start posting something valuable there for the people helping me out. All right, that's it. I gotta take care of myself. Have a good day, guys. Have a good evening, wherever you are. Thanks for stopping by. Really appreciate it. Take care. Happy puzzling.